let's talk all about Superpumped. So the series gives us an inside look into the highs and lows of Uber. Why would you say this one is a must watch for audiences?
There's a book called Super Pumped by Mike Isaac. It's what is it called? It's called Super Pumped Battle for Uber, actually. And once this story came to my attention, the project, well, the first thing I did is I read the book, and I think why this is going to resonate within the public today is because I don't think anyone really knows this story. Everyone knows what Uber is. Everyone's been ordering food. Everyone's been riding in the cars. Everyone's been taking advantage of this magical thing that came from where. And that's the question, where did it come from? And that whole story, I didn't know anything about. But when I read the book, I mean, at the end of every chapter, you're like, I had no idea, you say to yourself. I had no idea. And it's just so outlandish, what goes on, what really happened, that it makes you question, how can you not know these things? And it made me realize this is a true American story. I mean, this is pure Americana right here. How
Yeah.
can this not be known? And at that point, I was like, I'm in. I mean, I'm in. So that's how that came about. It's yeah.
Well, what would you say, based on what you learned when doing research before filming, was the most surprising part for you? Like, what did you learn that really surprised you that you didn't know before?
I mean, maybe I mean there are so many things, but maybe one of the things is that with a lot of money and with enabling from the right circles, just what people can do, and people of high intelligence with brilliant ideas and what they can do with these ideas, and the the industry of, let's just say the American idealist here. But also, what is fascinating is how wrong that can go, and how little control you have over what's happening right under your nose, and you have no idea about it, nefarious and otherwise. And so I guess it's sort of like a cautionary tale. Also, the character that I play, Bill, he's kind of like, Travis to me is kind of like Icarus. Icarus, he wasn't just told to, don't go too high to the sun. Icarus was told, don't go too low to the water either. Those feathers will come out one way. You got to stay right, and you got to stay balanced. And that makes sense to a character like, it makes sense to a lot of us. We see a lot of our friends, they go too high, too low, and they crash. And that's what Bill's dealing with here. I mean, my character's constantly dealing with trying to keep him in the middle, to keep everything moving. But in this case, the stakes are so high, and everyone's got their own motivations. And it made the storytelling a lot of fun. There's just so much going on, and it's just such an outlandish story. It's just so incredible, and it's a very important story. And I'm sure it's happening in other places around us, so we don't know. So maybe that opens up a conversation too within the public. But I think it's going to be well received, and there's some thought-provoking. There should be some thought-provoking issues in this that I believe will start conversations for people.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. And for you, I mean, obviously you mentioned playing Bill Gurley. How challenging was it playing a real person who's obviously still alive? And I'm curious, have you heard from him about the role, or like, do you hope to hear from him at all once this comes out?
I I don't expect that I will hear from him. I mean, I wouldn't expect to hear from him. I had thought about reaching out to him originally, and I had, I had asked the guys. I said, is it possible I can speak to him? And while that was in motion, I stopped that motion, and I said, I realized I don't want to talk to him, because you bring up a great a great issue, and it's an issue for me too. It's tough to play. It's tough to play a historical character, because you want to be true to that character, but at a certain point you're making stuff up, whether it's thoughts, actions, or otherwise. But when the character is still alive, I myself really don't want to make stuff up. I feel responsible, and you're always feeling responsible as an actor to your character, let alone. But now you've got a real person that. I mean, if you don't care about the person, that's fine. You can do whatever. You can besmirch them, or you've got a lot of power. I don't like having that power, and I'd like to be true to what I'm doing. So that was always a consideration of mine in trying to keep an even basis there. But with a guy like Travis on being on the other end on this show as another character, it made it a little bit easier. So, you know.
I respect that a lot, Kyle. That's very. I genuinely mean that. I want to switch gears a little bit because the Super Bowl is around the corner. We're thinking about football now, and I feel like that brings back memories of Friday Night Lights, of course. I'm curious, in what ways, when you look back, did playing Eric Taylor change your life? And I'm doing it right now, but how often do people come up to you and just like want to talk about that show?
Um, That's funny you say that. That was such a it was a great period of my life. It was probably more fun than I've ever had working on anything. You know, Pete Berg created a show that you wouldn't know this, but the show was fantastic. I agree. You know, I agree. It was a great show to watch, and but it was the process that you and most folks they don't really know about that process, and that process was so wonderful. And I learned so much from that. And all the actors, we all agreed. We all agreed after that show that we have to take a little bit of this with us and protect it and fight for it in the other projects that we do. So it was a life changer.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, obviously, still kind of jumping off of that, you mentioned the other actors. Your career is phenomenal after the show. Then we have Michael B. Jordan. Then we have Jesse Plemons, who just got his first Oscars nomination.
Yeah,
So I'm curious, like,
congratulations, right?
yeah, that's amazing. I'm curious, looking back and working with them, in your experience, did you have an inkling that they would be as big as they are now? Like, what is it about them that you see kind of made their star rise?
Wow. We were a tight knit group on that show, and you can never know, you know, what's going to happen with people, but none of it surprises me, none of it. Especially, I can't even say especially because it was a tight knit group, all well deserved. I mean, all well deserved, and again, I will go back. I think we all learned so much together through the process that we were working with. It was like an acting class for all of us every day. It was very
Wow.
important. Yeah. I
Wow,
don't
I
think
love
anyone would
that.
disagree with that. Any of those actors that you mentioned, they would not disagree with that.